All right, welcome back to the Go Folk Yourself podcast. This special episode is Monsters of Video Games, and I'm Victor, your GFY sound guy, joined by Dan.
Hi, I'm great. It's so great to be back with Victor as the host.
Yeah, and we also have our historic armchair historian, Dan K, coming back.
The historic armchair historian.
Yes.
Makes you sound very old.
Right, like, yeah, left in the annals of the past.
How's everybody doing today? You know, I like to take a smooth into the episode. I don't want to go blasting like Brett does every time. Just kind of take, temperature of the room.
I guess if we want to run this like a work meeting, all's well over here. This is, it's going great.
Why
and I'll
not?
mute myself
it's
so
like
that Dan K can
meeting
answer.
I've had.
Like every meeting you've had. Perfect. Yeah.
Do you have a funtivity to kick us off? Maybe a round of two truths and a lie?
Oh, the funtivity is definitely having Victor explain creating this damn Zoom meeting.
This podcast brought to you by Zoom, like all other podcasts. Right now, if it sounds a little weird, we're all remote in our bunkers, holding up, staying safe. I'm currently wearing my mask, so, just to be extra safe. So I sound a little muted. You know why?
There's no point. Wearing a mask, there's no point.
God damn it. Let's not spread that on this episode. But no, that will be the last you hear about virus or safer social distancing, maybe. We won't bring you down with what everyone's doing to try and stay alive. It's not about, this podcast is about entertainment. It's about distraction, about to get your mind off the current woes that you have. And that's why
we definitely don't have an episode planned about the plague or anything. That's fine. Spoilers.
I just bet if you listen to every other podcast right now, I was like, so what are you guys doing to keep busy? I just stared out my window and, just looking outside. And that's literally what every podcast is right now, is what they're doing to stay bored because they have no more stories to tell because they're all inside.
Yeah, fuck that. If we're doing a podcast, we got to make sure we're talking about things that are actually interesting and not just the same thing that every human being has been doing for the past month.
No,
that's why we're going to talk about video games.
2 months.
2 months. Yeah,
2 months.
You may ask yourself, listener, why are they doing about video games? None of these guys know what they're talking about. You are right. What we want to share is more about the monsters, the lore, the ghosts that you find in video games, the things that stick out, the things that what I like to call back before the internet playground folklore. The little messages you heard from friends that were like, there's a green ninja in Mortal Kombat that pops out only on this level. Things of that nature, and also creatures that were created throughout it. So we're going to dab into Skyrim, some BioShock. This isn't going to be a review podcast or like shitting on any of your favorite franchises. What we want to focus on is actually the myths and legends from that originate from video games, and also some of the classics and where they pop up in video game culture. And to kick it off, to kind of give everyone a little taste of where everyone's coming from, I want to talk about what's your first vivid video game memory? So for me, it's kind of a tie between Super Mario Brothers at a neighbor's house on an NES, and also seeing Mario 64 displayed at Toys R Us for the first time, and it blowing my mind as a kid because I was poor and did not have either of those systems. And I always play them at like cousins or neighbors' houses. So I wanted to go first to Dan Barron. Like, what is your most like vivid video game memory? Like your first thing you can imagine could be Sonic or any of the original classics.
For me, the first video game I really played, my dad and I used to play Bubble Bobble all the time on the NES. So like that was just a thing we did, is we would play Bubble Bobble. There's also he used to play the original Legend of Zelda a lot, and then he stopped playing it when I accidentally deleted his save file because I was a
How
dumb
did that
kid.
go?
Not well. He's still to this day. If you ever meet my father and ask him if he plays a video game, if he's played a video game, he will recount the time that I erased his Zelda game and why he doesn't play video games anymore. So he didn't
You
take
broke
that
his
well.
spirit. Okay.
You ruined
I
video
broke-
games for a man.
I did. I ruined video games for that man. And you know what? I don't really feel that bad about it anymore because now I know you just start over. We've all been there.
It happens.
It happens. But yeah, I think
Really? Wait. I'm sorry. Do you start over? Let's imagine your Animal Crossing world got deleted, Dan. Do you start over?
yeah. What else am I going to do? Not play Animal Crossing? Come on.
Yes, that's a valid thing that you could do. As you can see by your own father, it's entirely possible as an
You
option.
Here's
just
the
stop
thing.
playing video games. The legacy continues.
I have had moments like there are certain games where I was really frustrated and I died and realized I forgot to save, and I would put that game down for like a month because I was so pissed that I had to redo a level that was tough. But I still went back if I liked the game. So, still think it's overkill.
Yeah. Dan K, what is your most vivid video game memory? Your first thing that comes to mind when you think of video games when you first played it?
Sure, this is where I out myself as the old friend.
The old
So
I used to play Pong.
Pong was the thing that swept the nation.
the first
Back
game
when
I-
they first installed the Pac-Man cabinet at the local arcade.
my friends and I would put many a dime in. The cost a dime then.
They used to have rotary machines that had moving pictures.
So the first game I ever saw, the first video game I ever actually saw was Pitfall
Oh yeah.
on the 2600, because a family friend had the Atari at the time, and I probably was 4. Like it's one of those super early memories. I don't even think I was capable of playing it. But like the first video games that I actually got to play was probably around like 6 or 7. Next door neighbor had an NES, and he had Duck Hunt. Never played Mario on it for some reason. Never saw that until I got my own. But
Don't they come bundled?
They do.
They absolutely came up.
At the time, yeah.
Duck Hunt and the Three Stooges game for the NES.
Wow.
Oof.
I didn't know that existed. I knew Duck Hunt.
It does.
Here's
It
a
is not a
question.
good game.
Here's a question, Dan K. You've played a lot of classic games since then. I know you didn't have an Atari, but you've played a lot.
I did have.
Did you
Atari.
ever? Did you? Oh, okay. Did you ever play E.T.?
I did. I played ET. It was one of the Atari games I owned.
Yeah, my grandfather had an Atari, and he had E.T. He had E.T. and Yard's Revenge.
So those coincidentally made by the same person. Also,
He
That makes sense.
Probably got a
also
bundle.
considered both ET the worst game of all time, Yars' Revenge the best Atari 2600 game of all time. That's an incredible collection to have.
Yeah, fun
Yeah,
fact,
he had
E.T. made the collapse of video game boom in the 80s because there was so much oversaturation with shitty licensing happening in games, and that did not sell at all, that Atari had to fill landfills of it. Of the cartridges.
We could have an argument about the landfill and whether or not it was ET's fault. I consider it Pac-Man's fault. Because if you've ever played the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man, that would be enough to collapse an entire industry.
That I understand. Though I will say, if there are any ET fans out there, I know we said we weren't going to critique any fan bases, but you guys are obviously being ironic, and just stop.
Yeah.
There's no way there's anyone who actually likes that game.
Everyone played ET the exact same way. You popped the game in, you ran around as ET, you fell in the hole, you figured out how to get out of the hole. That's all you did, and then you played something else.
No, Dan K, you're adding way more steps. You fell in the hole, and you're like, this game sucks, and you turned it off, and you walked away.
No, you tried to get out of the hole at least 3 or 4 times before going, I can't figure this out.
It
I'm
doesn't
done.
do anything.
Why does his neck keep growing? What does that do for me?
Flipping to a more happier question, what was the first game system you guys bought with your own money? This time I'll have Dan K go first. So the first one that you saved up, or you could, I'll let a cheat in that you got as a birthday present, or like this was like the one present you got that year, or something of that nature, that it was your system.
Well, those are very different answers.
They are very different answers.
This is incredibly different answer. So the first video game system I ever bought with my own money was the Wii, and I bought that opening day. I remember standing in line at the GameStop with my friend John in the mall at Millennia, waiting for that store to open, and I was like the fifth person to get a Wii that day.
And you know what? That system never disappointed you.
Man, that system disappointed me consistently. But that's just because that's where the shovelware went, and because I bought Elebits. But overall, man, the Wii was the example of why, I always say Nintendo is one of those companies where they make a game system where like it'll last the apocalypse. My first Nintendo, literally, we accidentally left it on a stovetop. There's a reason for that I won't go into, but the stovetop was on. It melted while we were playing Mega Man 2, and that thing still ran. That friggin' Wii fell off its entertainment center and completely shattered. And I was able to send it to Nintendo, and they had a new one back to me in like a week. Like,
yep,
that company does not screw around. Like they might release crap once in a while, but they take care of things.
Actually, yeah, no, my Wii, there was once a lightning strike, and it burnt out my Wii, and I called Nintendo knowing this is not a warranty covered issue, knowing that I would be paying for a repair of some sort, and they just took care of it. Like Nintendo's solid about that stuff.
Yeah, much better than Sony.
Much better than Microsoft. Let's talk about those friggin' controllers. Sorry, I don't want to continue derailing. Dan K, you were talking about your Wii.
Was I? Oh yeah. So goddamn.
So the Wii was the first one you bought with your own money, and then I only meant if you didn't have like that, if you don't remember that memory, like what was like your fondest gift or.
Oh man! Well, the day the friggin' NES showed up was a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Did you have like that Nintendo 64 Christmas unboxing video?
I definitely.
Nintendo Entertainment System!
I imagine young Dan K was like, "Thank you, Father and Mother. I really enjoy this. Thank you."
You got me a Nintendo Entertainment System. Son, a lot of people just call it NES. I don't know why they would. It's called the Nintendo Entertainment System.
No, Dan, it was called a Nintendo.
It was called a Nintendo, yeah.
That's
Everything
true.
was called a Nintendo in my household.
Every game system is called a Nintendo.
It was called a Nintendo.
I get that. So for me, the first system that I kind of saved up and bought for myself, and by saved up and bought for myself, it was more one of those moments of parents withholding allowance, so that was me learning about saving. So weekly, I would just keep tabs on how much I had. Was the Sega Dreamcast, which, no regrets, spectacular system. I could talk for hours about how that is still one of the best gaming systems I have ever had. It had a free to connect internet. You didn't have to pay a premium. You could just go and play Phantasy Star Online with people, even though why would you? Because that game's awful.
But it was there.
It was there. You could do it. You could connect to the internet. It had a browser. It was bad. But I think the first system I was really excited, the first system that was ever like mine, which I think is more the heart of what you're going for, was when my parents gifted me my first Game Boy. They gifted me the Game Boy with the little plug-in light so that I could see the screen and car rides, which now, knowing what it's like to be a parent, granted it's only, 2 months, but I know they just bought it for me so that I would shut up in the car. But altogether, that was the system for me, because There was Pokemon Red. That was Super Wario Land, which I played the hell out of. Kirby's Pinball, Dreamland Pinball, whatever that was called. Yeah, no, that system was like the first system I had that felt like mine.
Yeah, for me, it was the Game Boy Color specifically as a gift my grandmother got me with Pokemon Blue, because the family had
Nice.
Tetris on the original Game Boy, but that I have 3 younger brothers and my dad that would play it. So it would be like just all over, and you would not get time to play an RPG like that. And that was the first RPG I was really ever into. And that was like really special to me. And the first system I bought was a Xbox 360, and I was in college at the time. And I remember I was at local Rhino Games, and me and my friend were just talking about it. That's when we actually hung out in game stores sometimes and like just talk to people and play the demos that were out, because we were in between classes. And then a bunch of people leave the store. I never forget this. And the guy just talks to me over the counter. I was like, yeah, you can't find 360s anywhere. Like, they're just sold out. He's like, that FedEx guy just gave me 3 of them. Do you want one? I was like, what? Yes. And I ran to the ATM, got cash out, and came back and bought it, and got Perfect Dark. And me and my friend sat down. We were really excited. He had to use a shitty controller, and we played like 10 minutes of the game. We were like, this is crap, right? This is crap. And we returned it and got King Kong. And Rhino Games, rest in peace, obviously had a great policy where you bought a game, and if you wanted to return it, you just had 6 days to return it. And you could do this up to 3 times. So what that meant for me and my friends in college was try a game out, play it, get bored of it. If it didn't last the 5th day, 6th day, go back, return it, get a different game. So we got to play the whole 360 lineup for the matter of like 2 games.
Man,
we just
why
did
did
Call of
Rhino
Duty.
Games not stick around? That's so weird.
Right? That's such a great business model. Why did they not
Well,
stick around?
You guys know who owned Rhino Games, right? This is very important.
Doesn't GameStop own them now? But they didn't own them before, right?
They did not. That was owned by Blockbuster, who is known for making great business decisions.
Oh,
so
That makes sense. I did not know that.
Rhino was Blockbuster's GameStop competition. When they recognized they were going to lose the rental video game, they tried to pivot to Rhino, and it also didn't go well.
So before we go into our first monster, I want to end it with just a fun, like, which game do you guys recommend in the Go Folk Yourself community right now? Like, could be something you're playing or something you just highly recommend that you just let you roll credits on. And Dan Barron, I'll let you go first.
If I'm recommending games that are hard to find but worth your time, I feel like Dan K will he will back me up on this one. If you ever get a chance to play Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, spectacular Lovecraftian style game. Will really mess with your mind. Very fun. Probably cheesy by today's standards, but again, very clever game. But if we're talking about games that you can play now, especially seeing as this is a spooky podcast, Alan Wake just got re-released on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. That is if you like Stephen King stories, that is a fun ride. Even though it is not a Stephen King story, it is just a story made to be like a Stephen King story, which to me is the ultimate Stephen King story.
Yeah, it's a great one to do, and you can just try it on Game Pass on PC or Xbox. This podcast brought to you by Game Pass. Subscribe now.
Yeah, give us free Game Pass.
We're in Washington, Microsoft. Give us codes.
2 of us are in Washington. Give us stuff.
Are we influencers yet? I don't. That's how it works, right? We say the thing, and they give us free things.
Yeah,
said
they
the
listen
thing.
to all podcasts, and whenever their name is mentioned, they just send you money. It's real weird.
Yeah, it's really
Love
weird.
Fuck you for being the first one to mention Eternal Darkness during this recording.
I was prepared. I knew it was a race to which one of us could bring it up first. I knew. I absolutely knew that.
That is, what a recommendation. Hey, if you really want to play a great game, go find a used GameCube. You can get a Wii maybe. I'm sure they're everywhere. And then hunt down this incredibly obscure game that did very poorly. And you'll just have a great time.
May the rats eat your eyes.
This isn't happening.
Sorry.
We'll go further into it. All right. As far as like a recommendation though, that's an incredibly broad question as well. It's like, what game do you recommend? Just any. I would personally recommend Civilization.
That's a good one. That's free on Epic Game Store. Epic Game
Exactly.
Store. Get your games first. This podcast is also sponsored by Epic Game Store.
Don't worry about
absolutely.
us, Microsoft.
I 100% signed up for Epic Game Store to get my free Civ 6 that I can't play right now because I built my computer out of potatoes.
When you can, we can play together, Dan K.
I know. No, I'm working on maybe building the system, but Civ, whether it's Civ 5 or Civ 6, shit, man, you can still download like Civ 2 from like abandonware websites, and those games still hold up. There is something incredibly magical that they never lost. So that's my recommend.
That's awesome. The one I'm going to close off before we get into the subject would be Predator Hunting Grounds, because it is fantastic. It is 1v4 multiplayer only, where one player is the Predator and the other 4 players are commandos out in the jungle trying to take out terrorists. And it is spectacular. And me and Dan got to play the closed beta a while back ago. And it's perfect because if you're the soldiers and you kill the Predator, the game ends by the famous handshake that Arnold does in the beginning of the movie, which is just
great.
as you just do that over the body of a dead Predator. Also, fun fact, if you're the Predator, right before you die, you can set off the bomb and kill all the other players, and it does the evil laugh. Music's perfect. It's still glitchy. It's a small indie team that Sony put together, but it's fantastic. I recommend it if you have a PS4 or a PC, especially right now in this time. It's a good distraction.
Yeah, it's not a perfect game, or at least when it was the beta, it was definitely not a perfect game. But like, man, tons of fun. Much better than Friday the 13th, which was such a shame because I was really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, the team gets theme really great. It's just everything else, just they need more backing or like funding and stuff to polish it.
The Friday the 13th game, for being really badly buggy, we laughed our asses off playing that game.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Very fun.
And if everyone can download it for free, it's a recommendation.
Oh, yeah, I believe it's still there on Xbox. And another thing that was really fun back in the day, I'm sure all three of us can speak to, when we're going into zombies and freaks in games, no game, I think, gave that tension of being frantically at the end of the beginning of the apocalypse is Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead 2 mostly. But that game, so many nights just screaming at friends and roommates about who left who and just frantically trying to survive. And it was, yes, it's fast zombies, but it's a really fun mechanic to have in a game.
Well, this shout out to my friend Sabrina. So I used to play Left 4 Dead a lot with Sabrina, Ethan's brother Josh, and his wife Allie. That was like our foursome in that game. And Sabrina and I used to have a tactic called Pocket Full of Dreams, which the full sentence was, no pistol, no health pack. I just have a pocket full of dreams. And literally what you would do is as you opened the door to go out into this world full of zombies trying to kill you, you took nothing and you just ran. And then anytime one of your teammates got attacked, you would just scream, "A zombie on you means a zombie's not on me." And you would keep running. Really not great for team play, but you very frequently throw off the zombie team's strategy because no one expects somebody to just bolt through the level without looking back.
Yeah, and this game just had hordes and hordes of zombies, and it was very Snack Cider, Dawn of the Dead inspired, just that type of zombie horde rushing at you.
Oh yeah, nothing worse than when the car alarm would go off and there was nothing you could do. There was nothing. You just knew, find a corner and pray, because eventually the tank was going to charge you, or a jockey was going to jump on your back, or a smoker was going to pull you up, and it was over. It was over. That game,
still fun. You can find it on Steam and Xbox, still backwards compatible. Highly recommend it. We played it pretty recently, a couple of months ago.
Perfect zombie game. But definitely play with friends. It's not worth it to just go online and play against these other people who are playing, because they've been playing for a very long time and they are very aware of the maps and the places to hide.
Find friends.
See, here comes
definitely find friends who are interested in the dive with you.
Not a fan.
Not a fan.
Oh,
okay.
You're just, what is wrong with you?
So what would your ideal representation of zombies Dan K, in a video game?
Man, I'm not a huge fan of zombies in video games.
Boo.
I'm sorry.
Cheap answer.
There's
Walking Dead season 1.
Yeah, I never finished it. It was okay.
Oh my god! How do you not finish that game?
And on the opposite spectrum of like gut wrenching storytelling while using zombie as a metaphor for, or the reasoning of like good zombie stories where it's just a like reflection of the evils of mankind. Yeah, Walking Dead season 1 was just hit that pinnacle of just right before it got overplayed out, and Walking Dead the TV show went on for way too many seasons.
Yeah. Now
Is it still going?
Yeah,
it is still going.
and there's 2 spinoffs. I think. I don't know.
Here's why I don't care. Every zombie game is the same zombie game, which is, hey, zombies are everywhere. We got to stick together to survive. Oh no, there's conflict within our human group. Someone's gonna die. Several people die, and at the end, probably your player character dies. That's all the zombie games.
Then you clearly didn't play Left 4 Dead, where it was, hey, we're 4 random strangers, but guess what? We're stuck together. Let's make it to the hospital, grab these guns, and let's kill some things.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story. You got it. Did either you ever play Dead Space?
No.
I played Dead Space 1, but that's it.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, because Dead Space 1 took that trope and put it on its head, and I loved it because you're a space engineer, and it mixed aliens with the zombie trope, but the zombies weren't, you couldn't shoot their heads. They were like this mutation, they were this alien presence that got into human bodies, and they became the most horrid things I've ever seen. And that game had such a cool mechanic. Instead of shooting the head, you had to dismember the aliens and cut them up. And your character wasn't a hero. He was just like, God damn it, I'm just here to do a job, and I have equipment. Like, all his tools are actually.
You were answering a distress signal, right?
Yeah, that's all it was. You're doing. Yeah. And you're also slowly going insane throughout that game, and just getting hot, because his motivation in that game is his girlfriend is stationed on that abandoned ship. They called it a stress signal. And you just find this ship of horrors of basically just little diaries left everywhere, and also people just randomly killing themselves in front of you, which was just, you find out.
I feel like if we're gonna throw it to like zombie games that really were immersive, you got to go at least Resident Evil 1.
Oh yeah,
I will agree that Resident Evil 1 took its tropes and did a great job with it. But I would argue that Resident Evil 1 is more of like a haunted house game than it is a zombie game.
2 and 4 were mine. 4 was my favorite, and it does a whole different thing.
4
with
is
zombies.
barely a zombie game. Yeah. 4 is an action adventure.
100%, because it starts off like a zombie game, and then it evolves into something way more, and there's like a cult and everything else. And 2, to me, I played more of 2 than 1, and 2 scared the living shit out of me as a kid. And that's one of the questions where I asked you guys, that game I played way too young. My uncle had a PS1, and I think I was barely like 9, and he let me and my brother play it, and I had no idea of horror games as a kid. And I played just the beginning of 2, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I got up to the part with the liquor in the police station, and that thing just gave me nightmares forever. Keep in mind I was in 3rd grade, and I don't play horror games really.
I love that you have mentioned this. So Resident Evil 2 came out on the N64, and I got it for Christmas 1999. And my parents clearly had no idea what the hell the game was about. And I was like, I'm gonna try this Resident Evil. I played the first one, and I also got to the liquor in the police station, shut off my N64, put the game back in the box, and said, I don't want to play this game. Can we trade it?
Literally, my mom was like, "What's wrong with you, too?" And I was like, "I video games are supposed to be fun. That was terrifying. What the fuck was that? Like, that was not at all what I expected."
And the game I traded it for, like I got instead, I went as completely opposite as possible. I picked up Harvest Moon 64.
Perfect. A farming game.
Man, I hate to do this because I feel like we've just landed on Resident Evil, but one of the scariest moments in a video game has to go specifically to the Resident Evil remake for GameCube.
Resident Evil 1 remake.
Like specifically the remake of 1. And I've been frantically Googling to try to find the name of the creature, and I can't find it. But there is under the main staircase in the mansion, every time you walk by this one locked gate, there is a girl crying.
Oh,
And there was something about the way it sounded and the noises coming from it. I was so scared of when that game was going to finally tell me it's time to open that gate because I didn't want to go in there. And I remember vividly getting the key and realizing it was for that. And I stopped the game for like a week because I was like, I have to muster some mental strength because I have no idea what this crying thing is. And I think it ended up being like a haunting in the mansion. Like it wasn't fully a zombie, but then again, Resident Evil is very weird with how the monsters were created anyway.
yeah, and that's why it's like zombies and freaks, because most video games take it to another level with zombies and add some extra elements to it, but they fit that mantra of like mindless killing machines that were once people.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember the name of this thing because it was just it was a girl, but it was obviously still a fight you had to do. It was not like a little girl. But yeah, that was for some reason that terrified me. Can't explain.
I mean, if we're going for like a game that like really did a fuck with you well, where you had to put it down and walk away from it, I'm going to go back to Eternal Darkness. Because along with a great story, for those of you who have never heard of this game, it is basically a Lovecraft narrative. That's what it is. That's Lovecraft. And you jump between like different eras, and they're all kind of connected. But the one thing the game does that's very unique is it has this sanity system. So the more you see monsters and the more screwed up things that happen to your characters, the crazier they get. And as they go crazy, they start mumbling to themselves and seeing stuff. But your game also starts screwing around with you. So it will do things like pretend the video feed cut out, or enter you into a room and look like the game glitched and you're just falling through the floor. Or, the screen will go black, but you'll hear your character being beat the shit out of. Well, the thing that game did to me once,
pretending to delete your save file.
That's the thing it did.
I love when games do stuff like that, where it just starts to break the fourth wall.
Because it knew. You get in a pattern. Where you can hit start, left, AA, and you're done. You save the game, and you save it constantly. And one time, start, AA, and they just get cool, deleting save file, and then it's just gone. And then it's just gone, and the game restarts.
Yep.
Really?
And it waits like 10 seconds before it goes, this isn't happening, and you're back in your game as normal.
It's awful.
I almost grabbed that GameCube by the handle and tossed it.
That's why they put a handle on the GameCube.
That is, so you can fling it as far as possible.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, give everyone a second to just dive through their children's scars or childhood-like scars from these retelling of stories, and we'll be right back with some lore from a favorite place that everyone has. I wanted to take a break. I might recommend skipping Ghosts and going to your thing, Dan, just because I don't have much for Ghosts in the lore, unless anyone had something prepped for that.
I have things prepped for Ghosts.
You have things prepped for Ghosts? We can jump back into Ghosts.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Very little.
Because what we can do is Dan's segment can take over the larger-than-life monsters and lore, because there's not much I have in there unless we want to dive, because we're already at like almost 30 minutes, I think, recording.
Fuck it.
Yeah, we'll touch on Ghosts, and then just kick it to me, and I can lead a quick thing on it. Mine won't take long either.
It sounds good. I want to have time for it because I do want to talk about that. Like Skyrim is one of those bigger ones that we all like had a memory to share from it and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we muting while he talks? Is that
no?
Okay.
We're all just discussion. It's just a part he has prepared for that. So
I'm just going to lead the discussion. That's all.
We still going to talk about boss fights.
Yeah.
Okay.
That should be a short one. That will be like the question we're going into. All right. This is great, both of you, by the way. This is exactly what I wanted, which is to ask questions and give more insight into like the back hood. And that's what I hope people get out of this, is like everyone's shared memories and lore of this. We all kind of grew up in that time before forums and internet and right into it. So I think I like the golden age of games that way.
I used to have to print my walkthroughs on my dot matrix printer.
It used to take 20 minutes. All right.
It's how I learned about ASCII art.
Yep, sure is. ASCII.
All right, then we're going to jump back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody. Well, that was a fun topic about zombies and freaks in video games. Right now, we're going to do something more ghoulish. We're going to talk about famous ghosts. The most famous, of course, obviously, we have to give it up to Blink, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde from Pac-Man, who were the ghost of his children that he abandoned, and he's haunting them. I'm just kidding. I don't know what the folklore of that. No, there's no backstory to Pac-Man.
Also, it's Blinky.
Blinky, sorry. I had a typo on my notes here. But in a more serious ghost, I want to talk about Boo from Mario and his backstory because there's a lot there. Boo is no. Boo is just a fun mechanic I find in Super Mario Brothers, where if you look at him, he doesn't move, and when you turn your back, he starts to attack you, which I think is great. And then the most famous ghost I want to share here is Gengar from Pokemon, because who didn't love Gengar?
That's the most no, look, he's not even my favorite in the evolution chain. Haunter was the best of the ghost evolution.
Games scared me as a child. I don't want to play them. No.
Well, I mean, hold on. If we are talking ghosts and you're going to mention Pokemon, we should talk about how fucked up Lavender Town is. It is a town whose their main economy seems to be that they are a graveyard for your Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be all they do. And that's weird. That's very weird.
A lot of Pokemon has that. To me, the only one that I could tell is an artist working through some shit is the creation of Cubone. Because you know what his Pokedex says?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That he wears the skull of its dead mother. Like, what?
Yep.
I would have loved to be in the pitch meeting for that. We're like, yeah, that's who I want to be the mascot. What? Yeah, he's a sad little dinosaur that wears the skull of his dead mom. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. What? I think it should be the mascot. Fuck that rat. I don't want to.
He's carrying a bone too. He hits people with his mother's bone.
There's always these odd entities in that, but in all seriousness, the one ghost that used to freak me out the most would probably be Alma from Fear. I don't know if you guys ever played that. That was one of the few titles I played on 360. It seemed like a normal first-person shooter, but you have this little this girl with black hair from The Grudge basically popping out and fucking with your game. And she would fuck with your view and also just come out of the wall and come into the wall or do like shining things like blood on the wall as well. And I remember that was one of the cooler things I noticed in games featuring a ghost that was actually affecting gameplay. That wasn't just a story.
You said that's Fear?
Fear, yeah.
I feel like I had Fear, but I just never played it.
It was mostly a PC like franchise, but that was one that just fit into the 360 early days. That's when I was just like renting stuff randomly because there was nothing to play except like Halo 2.
I feel like I can't think of like a ghost in a video game that like scared me or creeped me out.
Yeah, I can think of no ghosts that were creepy in a video game.
Okay, we can skip the creep part out. Sorry, I meant more just like a fascination part in game. Like I bring her up because it creeped me out, but also the mechanics and the way they use it in the story was really clever.
Well, no, but actually I think it's worth talking about the creep factor there because Dan K and I have played a lot of games and neither of us have a memory of a creepy ghost, which makes me think that like video games just haven't figured out how haven't ever figured out how to make ghosts scary. Because like the only ghost I can think of that was a challenge in some way is Lady Comstock in BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She was a ghost.
That was a good one.
That's the only time I've ever like cursed a ghost in a video game.
Yeah, because she was fucking impossible.
Yeah.
It was all the troops she kept spawning around her. It was really them that was the problem. And then, of course, there is Luigi's Mansion. Those are some scary ghosts.
Yeah, man, Luigi's Mansion 3, I have to say, that is a solid game.
Of course it is. It's a Nintendo original. Nintendo, send us free shit.
I'm aware, but it is a reminder that Nintendo can just be like, here's a game, and it's brilliant. Because I only got a chance to play it because I bought Victor's Switch, and he definitely forgot that Luigi's Mansion 3 was in it.
Yeah.
So big things on that one. And yeah, clearly you didn't play all the way through it, or you would have been much more serious in your discussion of Boo lore.
Oh, you mean with King Boo?
Yeah, there's a whole thing, man.
Well, I mean, divulge. Go into it.
Oh no, I know nothing.
Yeah, please.
Just King Boo's just in it. Sorry,
I
did you want
clearly been
more?
acting out the host here. I was really, you guys did not get enraged at all. My intro to Ghost was supposed to make you both upset, but clearly that did not happen.
No, because here's the thing with ghosts in video games. They are either just kind of weirdly there, like in The Sims, where, where your dead Sims will just sort of show up and be like, why are you here? I have to delete this urn now. This is annoying. Or you play as the ghost. And can you guys give me any games where you have had to play as the ghost? Can you remember any?
You have to play as the ghost?
You are the ghost.
I've raced against myself as a ghost in Mario Kart. That count?
You know what? It absolutely counts. It's canon now. Those are actual ghosts.
Yeah, I can't recall a time where you're the ghost in the game.
All right, I will take you backwards in time per game. For the I think 360, but on the Xbox One, they released a game called Murdered Soul Suspect. Do you remember this game?
No.
This is like a cult classic with a lot of video game reviewers.
It's actually weirdly, it's not a bad game. It looks like it's going to be dog shit, but I played through the whole thing. It's not a long game and it's kind of enjoyable. You are a detective that is murdered and has to solve his own murder.
Of course you do.
Of course you do. Absolutely.
What else would you do?
There's no other sentence after you're a detective who was murdered. There's no sentence
right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did. I think I played like the first level of it as a demo. Actually, now that you're saying that, but I don't think I ever played the whole game.
Yeah, it's not bad. I would recommend it if you find it for cheap. But then you've got Geist for the GameCube. Anybody play Geist?
Never played Geist.
No. Oh wow, it's not good. You are able to possess corporeal beings. It is a Metal Gear Solid style stealth game, but you're a ghost that can possess the guards.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's not. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Speaking of Metal Gear, my favorite boss from Metal Gear 3 is a ghost, the Sorrow. And my favorite thing that he did was he always looked like he was just a little off, and you find out that he really is a ghost. But if you went through that game killing every guard you found, his fight was almost impossible because you're going through a river of the souls of all the soldiers you killed in that game. So the easiest way to beat it is to not be lethal in that game and just go right to him, and then you basically set him free because these guys are all like old like combat Marines and everything of a special unit. So his was talking to the dead to find intel.
That's incredibly clever. If I had given that game a shot, I would probably have really enjoyed that. For Metal Gear Solid 3?
Kojima games are like, it's like, maybe that's cool. I can't speak to the last one he put out because it just looked like a walking sim with a crying baby, and being a new guy, that's not what I want to do in a video game where you're trying to pack as much shit on you as you can without dropping your child. That's my daily life. So
nope. After the FMV that was Metal Gear Solid 2, I actually gave Metal Gear Solid 3 a chance. I played it for about 3 hours, and then the opening credits started, and I shut the game off.
It's a good game. It's worth it,
not.
but I get it.
So I'm going to give you one last game where you play as the ghost.
Okay.
And I want to see if any of you ever played this. It was for the Sega Genesis.
Okay.
It's called Haunting.
Nope.
You
never played it.
Play the main character. Let me see if I have the name because it's very important. Yes, you are Polterguy.
God damn it, Sega Genesis.
Polterguy died when his skateboard broke.
Oh, great.
So he hunts down the family of the skateboard company that made the shoddy skateboards and haunts them in all of their homes until they have to flee.
So stupid. That's as dumb.
So many mixed
that's as
themes
dumb
in
as
that.
Zombies Ate My Neighbor. If anyone ever played Zombies Ate My Neighbor on Genesis, same level of stupid.
But the game was brilliant in one sense. You don't possess anybody; you possess the stuff around the house.
Perfect.
So when they walk
cool.
into the living room, you can possess the couch, and the couch just suddenly has a mouth and like opens and yells at them. really smart concept.
That's clever. The premise, the setup, very dumb. The execution, that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Because then it's a puzzler where you're trying to find the ways to scare each individual person, I assume.
Absolutely. You have to figure out what scares them and get them into the right spot. They have to be able to see it. You chase
It's like the
them
Home
from room to
Alone
room.
game for NES, where you had to figure out how to use the traps properly.
Yeah, except instead of a kid being home alone, you're dead.
And you're named Polterguy.
You're Polterguy.
Well, thank you. Okay, I thank you for educating us and our listeners on what games that you can be a ghost in. Do you play as the ghost? I think it's important.
No worries. The ratings on those were dumb, bad, and it's all right if it's free.
Dan K played them, so you don't have to. Is what I'm hearing. So right now we're going to segue into a thing Dan has prepped for us, and I believe it's lore from Skyrim.
Well, actually, the way Dan K was just talking, it's even more. It's less about the lore and more about. There was an interesting aspect to Elder Scrolls that I think I at least was always fascinated by, which were the monsters in the game that you, the player, could eventually choose to be as well. So specifically vampires and then eventually werewolves. So if anyone's played Elder Scrolls, it is just a big open world full of adventures where you could literally just pick a random direction, start walking, and you will find something to do. Right? That is.
If you have not played Skyrim, stop right now. Stop whatever you're doing. It's on everything. It's on Alexa. Don't play it on Alexa. Play it on any console. It is fantastic. It is absolutely worth your time right now. And then come back and listen to this.
I'm going to actually negate what Victor said and say your better bet is play Oblivion. That is still, to me, the best Elder Scrolls game that there is. More specifically, play Shivering Isles. Play
a DLC of it.
That's where it's at. You want to have some fun, Shivering Isles, Oblivion. But specifically with vampires and werewolves. So my first Elder Scrolls was Oblivion, really, because I played Morrowind, but I don't think I ever beat it. I think I just rented it. But the curse of vampirism, I can't remember what it was. Dan K, do you remember what the disease your character caught was?
Vampirism.
I don't think it was just called vampirism.
Maybe it was called sanguine something.
Yeah, I think it was like sanguine. I'll find it eventually. Sanguinitis. You would catch sanguinitis. But no, so you could randomly come across vampires in the game. And this goes back all the way to Arena. The first Elder Scrolls game had vampires in it. In Morrowind, though, is when they introduced the idea that if you fought a vampire and took enough damage, you yourself could become infected. And if left untreated, you yourself would turn into a vampire. And with that came some pretty cool bonuses. So you got a boost to your magic. It made you stronger. In Oblivion specifically, it made you constantly take damage if you were out during daytime, which was very annoying. Luckily in Skyrim, they figured out, that mechanic, while accurate to what we're portraying, is very annoying. And they just made you weaker during daytime. But it was always very interesting because it also gave you the ability to feed on other NPCs in the world to restore your own health and vitality and make you stronger and give you more abilities. And then enter Skyrim, and they introduced werewolves, which again, werewolves were in previous games, but Skyrim was the first game where you could choose to have lycanthropy, which then becoming a werewolf. And being a werewolf in Skyrim, I will make hands down best recommendation. Anyone who picks up Skyrim for the first time, you should be going and becoming a werewolf immediately.
Absolutely.
Go start the companion quest and become a werewolf. And here's why. It is not because you can turn into a hulking werewolf beast that can easily eviscerate people in hand-to-hand combat. No, you do it because when you turn into a werewolf, you are no longer your character and you cannot be held accountable for the murders that you commit in town. So is there a really annoying player that the game wants you to
weird thing to bring up? That's
no,
so
but
odd.
there's missions where you have to cloak and dagger kill somebody and don't get caught for the Assassin's Guild or for the Dark Brotherhood. Well, you know what's way easier than cloak and dagger? Run in there as a werewolf and tear apart everybody. And you're in no trouble and the mission is successful. But then in true Skyrim fashion, they released a DLC called Dawnguard, where now as a vampire, you could also turn into a flying bat monster, which also very fun because in one hand you had a giant fireball and insane levels of fun. But what I always appreciated about it, or what always stuck with me, that was one of the first games where it was almost a side consequence, right? These not so much werewolf was you had to choose to become a werewolf, but vampirism, you could just catch it by getting into a fight with like thralls in a cave that you found. Right? It's just something you could catch. And if you weren't paying attention to the small little notifications on your screen saying that you contracted a disease, then you could, in like the next time you rest, wake up as a vampire. So I always found that very interesting in a video game because it didn't matter. It wasn't important. You could still be the hero of the world while being a vampire, but the game still went to those lengths to include it. I don't know if either of you ever really chose to be a monster. Dan K, you strike me as the type who would not.
Yeah, I did not. I definitely finished the quest because that's what you do, and then got rid of that shit.
You took the cure at the end.
Yeah, of course, because apparently you play massive open worlds to murder people without consequence for yourself or your character is what I've learned here today.
Not necessarily. No. I just don't walk around collecting every book in the realm. That's not who I am.
This is a reference to that's what I did in Skyrim. Is my favorite DLC was the one where you could build a house because I got to have a library.
And that's where your character still rests.
He does indeed. He sits in front of his alphabetized library. It does not alphabetize it for you. You have to do that on your own. It's very realistic.
Fun fact, NK, your character is not still sitting in his library as years ago, I opened up your save file, made your character stand up, and then saved the game. So your character has stood up in his library. Just so you know.
Still like the knight in the Last Crusade, just standing there.
He's just standing amongst his books now. He is no longer resting. I just wanted you to know that. It's been a few years.
That's the interesting thing with Elder Scrolls is because you recommended Oblivion, which is a terrible recommendation, just awful, for the main reason that like it does not age well.
You're the Grey Fox. Sorry,
I'll make captain for this. Another item where you could kill indiscriminately and it wouldn't be your fault. So Oblivion, because you've gone back and played it, Dan, you know it doesn't hold up graphically. It's
rough. Sure,
it's trash.
It's graphically rough, but you would probably still play Fallout 3 without complaint, and Fallout 3 is the exact same fucking graphics.
That menu system is bad.
It's a bad menu system, I'll give you that. And the fact that it's not alphabetical.
You don't know till you go back into the older games that you're like, oh, who the fuck designed this UI? It's awful. It's just a weird thing that's really evolved a lot over the years.
Yep.
I have a feeling we'll be saying the same thing about Breath of the Wild's inventory system when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. So,
but that's the thing about Elder Scrolls is that the further you go back, the more it's the kind of game I really enjoy, where it tells you like, okay, you're in the world now, go figure it out and
have fun.
You just discover things. You just find them without knowing they ever existed. And they can become a core component of the way you play the game. And the game never told you about any of it. You just kind of bumblefucked your way into it. Whereas Skyrim never does that. Skyrim is very much like, nope, there's the marker on your map and that's the thing that you have to do. And we're going to let you know about it. and here's 30 townspeople to tell you that this thing exists. Like I've had my moments of pure discovery in the game. Again, I've collected all the books, but
that lusty Argonian maid, whew, spicy tale.
2 volumes. But yeah, there's less of a feeling of kind of exploring a world that doesn't want to explain itself to you as you go later in those games. And that's why I love like Red Dead Redemption, right? Because Red Dead Redemption has that same thing where no one's going to tell you if you go over here, there's going to be, this story that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, clan rally. The thing I brought up Skyrim mostly was both of you convinced me to get it when I barely knew you guys, because Dan, you're like, just get it. And Dan K, you were like, just explain, like, most RPGs, like, you gotta fight rats and then like a bullshit like dungeon thing. No, this game throws a fucking dragon at you the minute you turn this thing on. And I was like,
it does do that,
fuck
actually.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of want to segue to like the larger than life monsters in video games. That's some of my favorite moments. The first dragon you encounter in Skyrim, it's like fucking fantastic. And the fact that there are random encounters in the game.
Actually, if I can say, there is a much bigger fuck you in the Elder Scrolls universe than even the dragons, and that is when you come across trolls. Yes. I just want to say that real quick.
Are the fucking worst with them.
Trolls had no reason to be as powerful as they are, and they constantly heal themselves, and they're just aggressive. They'll kill your horse. They'll kill you, indiscriminate. Yep. Trolls,
and more specifically, break the physics of the game.
Yeah. Yep. More specifically, though, if you play Skyrim, you can actually find there is a troll somewhere in the world that is under a bridge, and above the bridge are always 3 goats that are wandering around. And I just think that is one of the more clever Easter eggs, is the Billy Goat's Gruff are actually represented in Skyrim, and you can go under the bridge and fuck that troll up. Very funny to me. Very, very funny. But trolls, far worse than dragons. Because at a certain point, you figure out dragons.
Yeah.
You understand what to do. You have a shout that can bring them down. You have abilities that can actually damage them. Trolls, it's almost as if they are leveling exactly at your level. You are always equally matched against the troll.
They are, Dan. That's Skyrim.
No, I know. It's literally the game is leveling up with you. But what I mean is the trolls were made to almost be like equal to the player in every regard.
I felt they were like punishment for players who wanted to just go full chaotic in that game, and that's where they were there, because they were there at the most random times in the woods, where you're just like, if you start just laying waste to stuff and you hit one of their mammoths, you're fucked.
No, those are giants. You're thinking about giants.
Sorry. Okay.
Giants were peaceful, and I liked that if only they really only fucked with you if you fucked with them. Trolls were everywhere. You just randomly out and about.
I'm mixing it up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Victor and I, you and I were both talking about giants when he was talking about trolls. Yeah, trolls is a different level of fuckery.
Yeah, giants. I mean, they hit you once with the fucking club and you flew into the sky and died immediately. Trolls just ravaged you to death, and you couldn't escape them because they were constantly healing and following you. So you couldn't just do damage, run away, and then pick them with a few arrows, because if you ran away, they healed by the time they got back to you. I hate them. I hate trolls. Sorry, just wanted to clarify as far as Elder Scrolls goes.
No, that's fair.
Fuck trolls.
Fuck trolls. Absolutely. You heard that first. Fuck trolls. The other larger-than-life creatures I love in video games, for me, will always be first time you saw Big Daddy, and then when it evolved into like Songbird in BioShock Infinite. Like Songbird was intense. I was like, what the fuck? Because I got to go to PAX East when they debuted that, and the entrance of PAX East, I believe it's 2013, had a giant Songbird statue that was over like 2 stories tall, and it was just in all like this giant steampunk hawk monster that was in the game that was just like a menace. And I love that games can emulate that and give you that experience of like this thing that you can't kill, but it's just something that lives in that world. And one thing I wanted to ask you guys, what is your favorite like game world or universe, something that immersed you in that? And it doesn't have to be Skyrim or anything of that nature, but what game world that just like the minute you saw that like a creature or something made up in that world that it's like, oh, I'm here, I believe this.
I'm really curious if Dan K knows my answer.
I don't. What is your answer, Dan?
And this is, if we're just talking about pure immersion in a video game, it has to be the little town of Dobuita in Shenmue.
Oh, of course. Why?
Where,
Why would I have assumed anything else?
and it was located in Yokosuka.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Again, there is a very scary boss in that, but it's just a kung fu master who you can't beat because he just murdered your father in front of your eyes. But no, that is the most immersive world because you just had to do real life stuff. You had to fucking figure out how to effectively shop for things. You had to budget your money. You had to watch the clock and make sure you weren't home too late. You had to get a job driving forklifts. Like, it was just like a slice of life in Japan. But I feel like that's not really what you're asking. You're looking for more the fantasy immersion.
It could just be anything that, like, you saw something that was, fantasy immersion or sci-fi or whatever. To give you an example, for me, I didn't play games as much at this time. Shadow of the Colossus came out and everyone kept talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I played it and I was like, that blew me away. And people complain it's a bland open world with nothing, but I love the simplicity of it. And when you see a Colossus, these giant hulking creatures, that all of them are basically boss fights that are puzzles that you have to solve, and you feel awful for killing it as well. Like, it has that very Jurassic Park moment where they first see the dinosaurs type thing, and not all of the creatures are like that, but it still has that like thing of like hunting something in nature that is rare and mythical that you have to take out, and that just sucked me in. I remember playing that for a whole weekend straight and just going into that world and not wanting to go out because it was such a different experience with no real HUD and no little like minions that you're attacking. It's just you have one sole purpose.
Dan, I'll let you go first, seeing as I already went on a Shenmue rant.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know if I have a really great answer for this. Shadow of the Colossus was something special, and absolutely those first boss fights were awe-inspiring. The moment you realize that the thing you're trying to clamor up is your end boss, it was just beyond. I honestly, Songbird is a really good candidate for that, for me, because Songbird comes in like a fucking tomahawk missile, like just shows up in your ass.
Nothing you can do.
Yep, and is always terrifying, and you never know at what point it's going to show up. They just drop that on you. Dude, I was looking up earlier information about Songbird. Do you guys, you ever seen the Songbird nursery rhyme that shows up in the game?
Are you talking about like the little tune that you play to summon the songbird?
No, the song the children sing about the songbird in Colombia.
I think was it in the arcade or something that you could listen to it?
Yeah, it's the lyrics are songbird, songbird, see him fly, drop the children from the sky. When the young ones misbehave, escorts children to their grave. Never backtalk, never lie, or he'll drop you from the sky.
That game, all right, Colombia. Colombia itself is one of
Colombia's
those.
Real fucked up. Yeah,
it's just real fucked up because it's such a beautiful thing of like, here's this beautiful, majestic, almost Greek mythology like temple of a city in a world, but there's so many horrors in it. And you have to look at it. You have to look deep to find it. Like things like that. The nursery rhyme. Or
it's as soon as the raffle happens.
Yeah.
As soon as the raffle happens, that whole world, what was a beautiful world they introduced, suddenly became this awful place that you're just like, oh, I don't want to.
Nope.
I want to be here.
And you draw the lines to our own American history, to this like fantasy alt history really well too. And like, what if someone just went nuts with it? And some people unfortunately live in that. But yeah, that really hit me playing that game for sure. Like on a personal note.
As you both
I feel
know,
like
I've I guess finished. I haven't really finished. You never really finished this game, but recently played Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
And like, I know, the divine beasts can very much have kind of this feeling like the Colossi did in Shadow of the Colossus, but man, that world almost rivals Skyrim. It doesn't have its like graphical beauty, in the same way, but it definitely has that feeling of like random ass discovery, and feeling like you're the first person that's ever found this area.
Yeah, the
Since it
systems
was
in that
created.
game are fantastic, and the lore. Like you find ruins everywhere. You find these like little, and everyone has their own versions of. I love that game because it brings back what I was kind of talking about earlier of like those playground like folklore stories, like the things that you would tell like other friends and things that like only could happen to you if you went up this mountain. Did you find that like the dragons in that game are my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Like when I first saw them, they were like, "What the fuck?" And you have to go find it, and then they also drop a special item, like all these things that it doesn't.
First
tell
time I
you.
saw a dragon in that game, I literally just stopped and stared.
Yeah.
I didn't try to do anything. I was just like, "What the fuck is that?" And I just watched it as whimsical music played.
It's something that would be like a full like stop, like quick motion event happening and force you to focus on it. It can be something you completely pass by and never touch, and that's what I love about that game, that wonder and discovery. And also, it has one of the most epic boss fights, and that's what I kind of want to jump into is famous boss fights in video games. These things are kind of the stuff of legends and myths. We have Bowser, we have Hitler, obviously Mech Hitler and Wolfenstein.
Obviously, we have Hitler.
Obviously,
Dracula, because games obviously early on had very like you have Dracula, you have a dragon, you have Hitler, because Nazis are an easy bad guy.
You know, Hitler.
They also
Not just
pair
Hitler,
really well
though.
with zombies.
He was a mech Hitler.
Mecha Hitler. It's simple stuff, guys. This is not groundbreaking.
And then, of course, we have, to me, my favorite, Ganon, or Ganondorf for some people.
Yeah.
Ganon
Which
throughout
Ganon?
Well, throughout time, all of them. Like that's what to me, like I love about this character, and the lore is this reincarnation of the hero, the princess, and the all powerful Ganon. Right, like this. He's different things in each game. One of my favorites is Wind Waker when he's Phantom Ganon, and he's like the pure spirit of what that character is, and he's just a ghost specter who's all consumed with power. So it's always that balance of power, light, and knowledge that I love about those games, that they kind of re-emphasize over and over again. For me, Breath of the Wild Ganon was awesome.
See, for me, the best Ganon is Ocarina of Time, where you have to go through and fight Ganondorf, which then leads to the epic castle escape as it crumbles around you.
Yeah.
And when you just finally think that you can like stop and breathe, giant pig Ganon shows up, and you have to have one more big fucking throwdown with that guy. That Ganon fight to me has never been topped. Never been topped. Oh, I love that.
DK, what about you?
I mean, N64 is definitely where I get my memorable boss fights, because the first time taking out Bowser.
Oh yeah, spinning him around.
Yep, ruining the plastic on your N64 controller for the rest of its life. Because you just put your palm on that plastic and just spun it as fast as you could. And then Ganondorf was amazing. But honestly, my most memorable boss fight will be Chrono Trigger.
Oh,
because did you guys ever get far enough in Chrono Trigger to matter?
No, but I did. I don't think when doing research for this episode, I wanted you to explain that villain, because that villain's kind of fucked up. It's this thing that went back in time. Yeah.
So so the whole. By the way, if you're listening and really wanted to try Chrono Trigger, skip ahead now, because there will be Chrono Trigger. There will be spoilers for a video game from 1994 coming up. So the whole idea of Lavos is that basically in prehistoric times, this fucking alien creature landed on the planet and has been slowly amassing power until it can take over. And it turns out that basically in the year 1999, the future, it does so and completely destroys all humanity. Like humanity is living its last generation. When you actually get there in your time machine, there's time travel in the game. I haven't explained this game properly. Any case, so you're bouncing back and forth in time, trying to figure out, like, okay, well, obviously we know that Lavos destroys the world in the year 1999. We're from the year 1000. Well, how do we stop it? And one of the places that you end up is in the year 10,000 BC, where you find out that like this prehistory magical civilization that's not recorded try to summon him for his power, and that exacerbated the entire thing. the game actually pits you against the final boss at that moment. Just dumps you into the final boss battle right in the middle of the game. And you have no hope. You literally have no shot at winning this. He is ridiculously overpowered, and you are not done leveling yet. And during the game, you lose so badly that the main character basically sacrifices himself and dies. So in the middle of this video game, the main character eats shit and dies, and you just go on without him.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Chrono Trigger had a really powerful story. Now, during the game, you could absolutely bring Chrono back. There was a whole thing where because it's time travel, so you can figure out how to save him. But yeah, that boss, you get to fight the boss before you're ready to fight the boss, and it makes the boss so much more intimidating when you finally get to him. He's also a fucking pain in the ass, incredibly difficult boss. This is 1994 JRPG SquareSoft's boss. Like, it's just impossible. But yeah, that will always stick in my memory.
See, I feel like if we're going by like the best boss fight I've ever experienced, I will always go back to Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Absolutely.
Because that was just such a clever. So Psycho Mantis was a psychic, like he was wearing a gas mask and floating around the level. And his whole shtick was that he could see what you were going to do before you did it. So if you aimed and shot at him, he always dodged a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. Like, you couldn't hit him until you unplugged your PlayStation controller and plugged it into the second player slot and then attacked him. Because then he didn't read you anymore. He couldn't find you anymore. And it was such a clever boss fight because it didn't explain that to you. I can't remember even how I ended up finding that out. If it was that playground lore where friends are just like, oh no, you know what you got to do.
That's how I found out how to do it, because it infuriated me. And I think it's somewhere in the manual. If you look at it upside down or something stupid like that, I can't remember, but it all gets blurred in with like rumors of like stupid shit that you could do.
That to me was just one of the coolest fights. Once you figured out the solution, once you knew the solution, it was still a tough fight, but it was obviously much easier because you could actually hit him. But yeah, that one will always resonate with me because I was so mad, and then it was something so surreal that I needed to do to solve it, which was unlike anything I'd ever encountered in a video game before.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think I have so many, but one that sticks out to me a lot is the ending of Portal. That one.
Portal 1 or 2?
One, man, it's hard because 2 was fucking fantastic too.
This is the part where he kills you.
Yeah, this is the dialogue in both those games is like just on another level, and I love that. And the cake is a lie thing. I'd have to say 1, because 1 I didn't expect it. I got Orange Box, and Half-Life 2 was fantastic, but Portal was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I thought it was like a demo, and it evolved into something more. And right now it's like a pop culture icon in gaming and things like that now. But
because Valve made it, we'll never see it again.
Yeah, and those people split off too as well, like, because Valve's coming back, but they're long gone. A lot of people that were on the original team. But those are awesome things. Like the thing I love, and thank you for going with us on this journey through video games, is those stories. That's what I love of video games, is friends being able to share stories of their own experiences in it and being able to bond on that or reflect on that. And the reason we kind of covered earlier in games is a lot of things you can find on internet, obviously Twitch culture and Let's Plays and things like that are very reminiscent of you having an older sibling and not being able to play and watch the game. So I get why those are popular. Like Dan K, you were telling us your son like watches a lot of Minecraft videos. My nephew does as well. That's constantly his favorite thing ever to do.
Yeah, my son's uninterested in that stuff. I try to show him video game videos, and
mine's uninterested. He gets mad and he wants to grab the controller and say mine.
It is very interesting though, because I mean, kids today, Jesus Christ, kids today are having a different communal experience with video games, because they get to see people that, you know, for us, it would have been like Nickelodeon personalities or some shit like that. But for, you know, for our children, it's these people that make it big on YouTube. And they are experiencing this game for them. But that doesn't stifle their creativity. Because I've seen some of the stuff that my son has conjured up after having watched a few Minecraft videos, and they're frankly amazing. You know, he finds stuff in games that he didn't know existed because he watches people play them, and then he discovers those for himself. So he still has those experiences of like, I discovered this for the first time. The only difference is instead of it being on the playground and him hearing about it through hearsay, he gets this like worldwide experience of being one of the people who also learned about it, via a personality. So it's different. It's definitely, I feel myself aging every time he talks to me about a YouTube video. But
Stampy Cat.
So Stampy Cat. Hello. I mean, they have fun with it, man. There's no loss from it. It's in the same vein of like, when we all started, and this is a weird analogy, but when we all started playing D&D, we started with like 5th edition, right? Or 4th edition, which is
4th edition. Well, 3.5.
Well, you 3.5, but we got pretty into 4th edition, which is like an anathema to like old D&D nerds, because it wasn't the same game. It was so incredibly different. But we never had a problem with our cards and our power sets and our dailies and things like that. It was just D&D. It was still that experience of sitting around a table and joking with your friends as you invaded a castle that didn't exist. And that's the thing, is that he still gets this experience that we all got to have as kids with video games, but he has a different lens that he gets to see it through.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah,
actually, my nephews who
that's enough, Dan.
Who now cut this off. My nephews who I found out now listen to this show, which I'm so sorry for. I'm sure many things I've said in the past.
Wow, you guys say fuck a lot. Are you sure that's a good idea?
That's what I said. I said there's a lot of profanity. My sister didn't seem to care. So fuck it. But my nephews who now listen to the show, I know are also going through the same thing where like, I'm not going to say names because I don't like to dox people, but one of them will talk to me about video games, and it's so fascinating because I know exactly what he's talking about. And a lot of the times I'm playing the same games, but he has a level of enthusiasm for it that I haven't had in a long time because I just haven't had the time to be that enthusiastic about games. And I miss that. I miss that level where my current events were things I was doing in video games.
Because they're a lot better than actual current events. Am I right, guys?
Waka waka. That's for goddamn sure.
Well,
what are you guys doing to get through this quarantine?
Video games. Thank you guys so much for sharing your personal stories through it. And thank the audience for following us along. If you like this, respond in our Twitter with Go Folk Yourself Podcast. When the show posts, in the comment section, me and Dan will be there. Respond with your favorite game stories or things that we missed. I know we hit vampires and werewolves just a little bit. We might jump back to this topic again later in the future. We kind of just went all over the place, but let us know what you think. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this. We want to reach out more, so let us know. Hit our Twitter up is the fastest way you can talk to us. And follow, like, subscribe, hit that bell, all the good things there. This has been Go Folk Yourself Podcast. Good night.
One more thing before we go. I'm so sorry, Victor. That was a good night.
Some kind of fucking Murrow.
It wouldn't be our show. We could never end.
We have to give a thank you to two specific people out there. We want to say thank you to the Bleaches, who, while they are no longer Patreons of ours, which rightfully so, we literally all yeeted out of this for 6 months.
Also gave way too much.
They gave way too much. But it is because of them that we were able to set ourselves up with the premium Zoom so that we can record and is why we are, working towards doing videos of our podcast as well. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Bleaches for their contributions in the past. We look forward to earning you as patrons again, and we are going to work very hard to do so. But until that day, just thank you. Really appreciate it. And to all of our Patreon subscribers, even those who were foolish enough to leave it running this whole time, you morons. Thank you. Thank you for funding our stupid show that is normally filled with dick jokes.
Yeah,
and we
you're the
will
reason
have
we
more
came
dick
back.
jokes next time.
Well, thank you guys so much. Dan K, anything else?
No, just end the show. Good God.